The ostracizing that takes place doesn't happen with every religious identity equally. Not everyone fears what their family's going to say. But it's sufficient enough that it impacts whether or not an atheist is likely to get elected to office, whether or not secular views are taken seriously in legislation, despite the fact that in the United States, we have, in our Constitution, in the law, a secular system, perhaps the first potentially glorious secular government, where you are free to hold your religious views, you are free to practice your religious views, and the only imposition from the government on your religious actions is when they come in conflict with other people's rights.
Well, for the sake of brevity, I won't be getting into any specific information in this video proving 100% that Matt Dillahunty is historically incorrect on the things that he had said here. Actually, later on in the video that I'm responding to right now, The Thinking Atheist gets into a bit more detail, so there'll be a part 2 to this video later on. Instead, what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to just give Matt his claim to prove that it still doesn't work.
We have, in our Constitution, in the law, a secular system, perhaps the first potentially glorious secular government.
You see, secular means something specific, denoting to attitudes, activities, or other things that have no religious or spiritual basis. Now again, it is 100% dead wrong, historically speaking, that Christianity didn't have any influence in the development of our government. But let's assume, for the sake of argument, that that is true. The one document out of all legal and non-legal binding documents that can be traced to explain specifically what the philosophy was which produced this country was the Declaration of Independence, which actually Article 7 of the Constitution references. And here's what it says. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And so at our roots, in the very document in which we declared independence, you notice that the founders made it very, very clear. In fact, it actually sounded a lot like they were arguing for an objective moral lawgiver there now, didn't it? But in this video, we're not going to try to argue for any specific religion. Remember, we are trying to go with Matt Dillahunty's claim to give him the handicap. That is, that America is a secular society. Secular is not synonymous with godless. And you atheists are the ones who are always crying that atheism is just a rejection of God claims. At our roots, in the actual document in which our founders declared ourselves an independent nation, we see the reasoning of a God-based society, which is why I can welcome the description of us being a secular society. Because secular, in the context of American history, has absolutely no connection at all whatsoever with a godless society. By being charitable and ignoring all Christian references by the Founding Fathers, the most reasonable, charitable thing that we can say is by secular, the Founding Fathers could have meant a general God not anchored to any specific religion. Now again, this conclusion I don't agree with. You'll have to wait for part 2 to see why. But this is just to show that Matt's description of America being a secular nation is just a pathetic attempt to slap an atheism sticker on a God-based society that has become the most successful, powerful nation in recorded history. Even by granting Matt's term, the truth is, the fact is that a godless, atheistic way of thinking had literally nothing at all to do with the founding of America.